Tonight we go deep. 3 caving stories that start with confidence and end in chaos. 1 wrong turn, 1 missed warning, 1 moment underground where everything falls apart. Viewer discretion is advised. In the first story of tonight's episode, Veryovkina Cave in the Abkhazia Massif is the deepest cave on Earth. 2,212 meters from a hole in a windswept plateau to a black terminal lake. No sunlight has ever touched. The bottom is 4 days away. The way back is 4 more. On August 19th, 2021, Thomas Ray was 6 days into Veryovkina with an 8-person team, camped 1.5 kilometers down, 3 days of rope above his head, and a survey to finish below. Thomas was 40 years old, an expedition surveyor with 4 super cave seasons. The quiet one who re-rigged other people's sloppy anchors without mentioning it. His brother ran a bakery in Valencia and chalked a tally of Thomas's days underground. It read 6 and counting. Here is what you need to understand about the deepest cave on Earth. It is a drain. Veryovkina is the low point of a whole mountain's plumbing, and when weather crosses the plateau above, the cave collects it. Every gully and crack funneled into the same shafts the cavers hang their ropes in. Expeditions watch the forecast the way sailors do, because a surface storm becomes, some hours later, a wall of brown water moving through the cave on a schedule of its own. The first 6 days run beautifully, the way long expeditions sometimes do when the mountain is in a generous mood. Camp rigged, the survey opening clean new passage every shift. The relay crackling twice a day with weather that stayed politely, boringly clear. On the 6th evening, Thomas and his survey partner Irina worked a dry gallery 40 minutes below camp, mapping a fossil streamway with clean walls and a soft sand floor. The kind of passage a surveyor calls boring and means it as the highest compliment there is. At 9 that evening, that is the moment the expedition stopped being routine, because the relay carried down a new forecast and it had failed. A storm cell had stalled against the massif, and rain the models had sent elsewhere was landing, all of it on Veryovkina's catchment. By the time the warning reached the deep camp, the water had a 2-hour head start. What they didn't know, packing in the dark, the pulse was already below them and above them at once. The cave floods from the middle out, wherever the drains converge. They heard it before they saw it, a roar through solid rock, arriving like a train with no station. The streamway woke beneath their boots, and the way out was the pitch ahead, its rope already hanging in spray. Then the spray became a column, hissing off the walls. The pitch was a waterfall now. The rope ran up its middle. Panic offered its services. Thomas declined. Out loud in 2 languages, he declined. Watch the arithmetic they were trapped inside. 40 meters of flooded pitch to camp. The water rising 1 meter every 20 minutes. 2 headlamps carrying 30 hours of light between them. 1 dry fossil gallery behind them sitting 10 meters above the streamway floor. And no way at all to know if 10 meters was enough. Climbing a waterfall pitch in flood kills strong cavers. And this is the part that decides everything in a flood pulse. The cave always wins the sprint. The only race you can win is the waiting race. So they retreated to the fossil gallery, hauled their bags onto its highest sand bank, and did the professional, terrible thing. They sat down beside their own map and watched the water arrive. It came up the gallery entrance like something poured. 1 meter, then 5. The roar filled the rock so completely they had to shout to trade single words. At 7 meters, the water slowed. At 8, it stopped, 2 body lengths below their sandbank, and held there, breathing, while they timed its pulses and wrote the numbers in the map's margin like readings from a hostile instrument. Above them, the expedition did what good teams do, nothing reckless. The camp held its ledge, counted its people, and found 2 missing. That count would turn out to be the pair's lifeline. From that moment, every decision on the mountain pointed at one gallery. The surface team radioed rescue coordination and got the answer every deep team dreads and expects. Nobody on Earth can reach you faster than you can reach yourselves. For 20 hours, the water held the gallery, and the 2 of them settled into the oldest discipline of the deep caves, which is doing almost nothing extremely well. They rationed 1 food bag, burned 1 lamp at a time, and slept in shifts against the survey bags. Twice the pulse rose again, 1 meter more each time, and twice they stood in the dark, bags repacked, doing the calculation neither said aloud. There was nowhere higher to go. At 4 in the morning of the second day, the tone of the water changed. The train sound dropped a register, and the level began to walk backward down the gallery wall, a hand's width every 20 minutes. The cave was handing the passage back. They met the camp team at the pitch head 6 hours later, on a rope re-rigged out of the spray by teammates who had waited there the whole flood with soup and a spare lamp. Tomas came over the lip, sat down in the mud, and asked in a gravel voice whether anyone had kept his survey pages dry. The pair had been sealed below the pitch for 26 hours, and both survived it unbruised. They came out of Veryovkina 3 days later on their own feet, into white plateau fog that felt like the brightest daylight of their lives. The expedition report runs 9 pages on the flood alone, and the review ruled the response textbook. A stalled cell, a failed forecast, a pulse that raised the streamway 8 meters in 3 hours, and a trained protocol that held. Retreat high, wait, never race the drain. The map they guarded is in the survey archive now, water-stained in one corner, and Tomas points the stain out when he teaches new surveyors. The deepest cave on Earth, he tells them, does not forgive speed. It forgives patience, usually. In our second story tonight, Eisriesenwelt, in the Austrian Alps, is the largest ice cave on Earth. The coldest mile under the Alps. A glacier locked inside a limestone mountain. Ice walls 70 years old, stacked in frozen waves, a bus could drive through. The name means World of the Ice Giants, and it is not marketing. On September 2nd, 2023, Lena Hart walked past the last tourist railing with a research permit, a rope bag, and a job to do, in a part of the ice the public never sees, 4 chambers beyond the last electric light. Lena was 34 years old, a glaciologist in her 6th season, measuring the cave's ice. The one who could read a frozen wall the way a forester reads tree rings. Her father had been a mountain guide in these same Alps, and she still climbed on 2 of his old ice screws, polished bright from 30 years of use. Here is what you need to understand about ice inside a mountain. It is architecture that moves. The formations grow and shrink with the seasons, fed by meltwater and frozen by the cave's winter breath. And every anchor you place in that ice is a guest, not a resident. Researchers rate ice anchors by temperature. Cold ice grips your screw like concrete. Warm ice, ice within a degree of melting, holds it the way wet sand holds your tent peg, and you cannot see the difference from the outside. That September was the warmest on the mountain's record. Lena's own instruments had said so all week. Her job existed because the ice giants were shrinking. The morning went the way careful work goes. She and her partner Jonas rigged the fixed line down a formation called the Frozen Organ, and she descended 12 meters to her sensor station, drilling cores while her headlamp turned the wall to blue glass. At 11:30, that is the moment the season's warmth stopped being a data point, because the top anchor of her fixed line was sitting in meltwater, and it had already failed to 2/3 of its thread, quietly, a millimeter at a time, since the day it was placed. What she didn't know, leaning back on the rope to bag a core, the anchors were due a retorque the warm week had postponed, and this delay would now bill the mountain's guests directly, starting with her. The release was almost polite, a soft metallic sigh from above, then slack where her weight had been, because the screw had finally let go of the slush that held it. The wall tilted. The rope failed. She dropped. Ice ate the shout. She fell 4 meters to the frozen scree, took the landing on her left side, and heard in the ringing silence 2 sounds: her own breath and water running somewhere inside the ice. Watch her new arithmetic. 1 wrist folded the wrong way and already swelling inside the glove. 4 meters of glass smooth ice between her and the lip she had fallen from. 0 degrees of air on a body no longer making climbing heat. And a partner 10 minutes away who had heard nothing at all. And this is the part that decides everything in cold injury. The clock is not the pain. It is the temperature. A broken wrist is an inconvenience. A broken wrist plus 2 hours of 0-degree stillness is how ice caves take people 100 meters from a marked path. Lena did the trained things in the trained order. Wrist splinted against her axe. Back off the ice and onto the rope bag. The saved chocolate eaten, because sugar is fuel, and fuel is heat. Then she looked at the wall she could not climb one-handed, at her father's 2 screws on her harness, and built what the situation actually required. Not a way up, a way to be found warm. She sank both screws into the coldest ice she could reach, clipped in, wrapped her bivy foil around everything, and began the metronome work. Clench, release, count, repeat. 100%, wrist screaming on every 4th beat. Her whistle did the searching for her. 3 blasts, rest. 3 blasts. The pattern her father had drilled into her before she could ski. In the ice chambers of Eisriesenwelt, sound refracts strangely off the frozen walls, but it carries, and a pattern is a pattern. Nature does not blow 3 and rest. Jonas found the top anchor at noon, the screw that had failed hanging loose in slush where solid ice had been, and his radio call reached the cave office 90 seconds later. The largest ice cave on Earth has a staffed door, a phone line, and a rescue post in the valley below. The team reached her in 50 minutes, following the whistle. They found her clipped to her father's screws, still counting sets out loud, cold to the core, entirely alive, furious about the interrupted cores. The carryout took 2 hours on the tourist path, past the great formations glowing in the rescue team's lamps. The hospital in Schwarzach set the wrist with 1 plate and 6 screws. Steel ones this time, she noted, and treated a core temperature of 34 degrees that had stopped falling, exactly where her metronome work had held it. The incident report ruled that the anchor had failed in a warm ice release no inspection could have caught, and the protocol changed that winter. Every fixed line in the ice now gets 2 independent top anchors, retorqued daily in warm seasons. Lena published the melt data that nearly killed her. The paper is cited in every ice cave in Europe. She still climbs on her father's screws, but only in January, she says, when the coldest mile under the Alps is honest about what it is. And for tonight's final story, Eagle's Nest Sink in Florida is called the deadliest dive site in America. And from the surface, it is nothing at all. A warm green pond in a cow pasture, duckweed thick at the edges. Under the pond is a chimney, and under the chimney is a cave the size of a cathedral complex, running deeper than 90 meters. On February 11th, 2024, Ray Delgado waded into that pond with double tanks reading 230 bar, a scooter, and a plan his own instructor had refused to sign off on twice. He left the truck unlocked, expecting to be back by 2. Ray was 35 years old, a strong open water diver with 200 dives and exactly 14 of them in caves. He was the diver everyone liked and every instructor worried about. Fit, calm, and in a hurry to be advanced. His fiancée had helped him load the truck that morning. The wedding was in June. Here is what you need to understand about Eagle's Nest. The danger is not the depth, it is the invitation. The upstream tunnel is wide and clean, and it descends so gently you can be 25 stories underwater while your brain still files the dive as easy. The site asks for full cave training and trimix, but the pond in the pasture checks nobody's cards. And that gap is where the deadliest dive site in America earned its name. The first 20 minutes were the best diving of Ray's life. Down the chimney through green light, onto the gold line, into the upstream tunnel with the scooter humming, walls opening around him like an amphitheater with the lights off. His buddy Marcus, cave-trained, uneasy about the whole plan, rode 10 meters behind, watching Ray's light dance the way new divers' lights always dance, bright, quick, and everywhere except on the line. At 68 meters, that is the moment the easy dive stopped being easy, because Ray swung the scooter wide and fast around a boulder, and the wash pushed him off the gold line into a low side gallery. Because momentum at depth is a loan the cave charges interest on. The gallery held old exploration line, thin as kite string, invisible until it was everywhere, and he was already stuck in it. What he didn't know, backing the scooter off with careful little bursts, was that the line had already found his manifold, his fin buckle, and the scooter's prop, and that every gentle correction was feeding it slack to work with. That turn would cost him everything he had brought down, and the cave was in no hurry to explain the price. He felt the first tug and did what open water instinct says. He rolled, and the line multiplied around him. He kicked. It tightened. Panic arrived on cue. It breathed for him. At 68 meters, panic drinks 200 bar through a straw, his regulator hissing at a sprinter's rhythm. Marcus was on him in 20 seconds with a hooked knife, one knee pinning Ray's harness, cutting by torchlight in silt rising like smoke. Watch the arithmetic go wrong. 68 meters of depth, 90 bar left in the doubles and falling fast, his breathing tripled by fear. 40 minutes of decompression already owed, and thin old line in zero visibility, wrapped where neither man could see it, holding 12 different points of a thrashing diver. And this is the part that decides everything in an entanglement. The line is not the killer. The gas is. A calm diver hangs still and is cut free in 3 minutes. A panicked diver breathes his margin to zero and turns a nuisance into a countdown. Marcus cut 8 wraps free, fin loose, scooter dropped, manifold clear. Then Ray's gauge touched 30 bar, and he did the last panicked thing. He bolted with 1 wrap still on his ankle, and the old line snapped taut and held him like a kite. Marcus put his own long hose regulator in Ray's mouth and shared gas while he sawed at that last wrap. The knife was through it in 40 seconds. 40 seconds was 1 breath too long. Ray convulsed once against the shared hose, spat the regulator, and went slack in the silt with his lamp still burning. 68 meters down, the deadliest dive site in America collected the fee it always names. Not the depth, the hurry. Marcus surfaced 80 minutes later, alone, tanks clanking hollow on the pond deck, having done every stop on almost no gas, because a second body helps no one. The county dive team was already at the water's edge. The recovery divers brought Ray Delgado out the next morning, moving slow and level through the green chimney light, the way recovery teams always move, with a patience that arrives exactly 1 day too late, past the sign at the pond that lists the site's rules, and it's dead. The investigation ruled the death an entanglement drowning driven by gas exhaustion, and noted what every such report notes at Eagle's Nest. The diver's training stopped 2 certifications short of the water he died in. Marcus spent 4 hours in a chamber and carries none of the blame and all of the weight. The state reviewed the deadliest dive site in America again and kept it open, as it always has, because the water is public and the choice is the diver's. Guarded not by a gate, but by a warning sign, a guest book, and a list of names that gets a new line every year or 2. His fiancée asked for 1 line to be read at the funeral. The line this channel exists to repeat. The cave did not take him because it was deep. It took him because it was easy, for exactly as long as it chose to be. Ray Delgado died at 35, 4 months short of his wedding, 14 cave dives into a sport that asks for 100.